Dripping on me like I'm ocean. Orbit round like a full moon, in the stars, I'm kidding.
Hi guys, it's your girl Jazz, back here with another video for you. I know it's been about a month since my last video, and that was just because I was adjusting to all of the life changes that were happening to me because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Today's topic is going to be about starting a new habit, and that habit is going to be the habit of reading. I personally love reading, and I've always loved reading since I was a kid, but I'm always hearing from people, especially my friends, like, oh, I don't like to read or I don't have time. So let me tell you this. If you think you don't like to read, it's just because you haven't found the right book yet. Because if you like to watch TV or listen to podcasts, then you can definitely find it in your imagination to enjoy reading, because it's a very similar process of storytelling. And then if you feel like you don't have time, but you have time to watch Netflix or play games or scroll on Facebook or Instagram for hours, then let me tell you, honey, you got time to carve out a little moment for yourself to read. The first thing I'd like to address is why you should start reading, because I know some people are like, do I really need to read? Yes, you should read. And some of the reasons that you should read are because, one, reading makes you smarter and can increase your vocabulary. When you're reading a book and you come across a new word, most people cannot just skip over a word, or even if you do skip over a word, you probably still learn the meaning of that word from the context clues in the other passages on that page. Reading also keeps you sharp. So I know a lot of people do things like word puzzles to keep them from having like Alzheimer's and dementia in old age. And reading is very similar to those things in that it's like a brain exercise. It's a muscle. Reading can make you a more understanding and a more compassionate person. And that is because if you're reading books from authors all over the world, you are experiencing through the book scenarios or just things that are happening that you might never have encountered before just in your everyday life. And not only are you reading about them, you're usually reading about them from the point of view of another human being. Reading makes it easy for you to step into someone else's shoes. Reading can be an escape. You know, I loved to read as a kid because it was how I traveled, or traveled not only to other countries, but traveled through time. My favorite genre as a child was historical fiction, and so for me, that was a way for me to kind of like enrich what I was learning in class by also picking up a book about like the Pilgrims or Native Americans or slavery or segregation. I read so many fictional stories about these things that helped me to deepen my understanding in school. The last thing that I would say, and this, I don't have kids, but I have definitely read that it is very beneficial for children to see their parents reading if you want them to develop a reading habit themselves. It's like the whole monkey see, monkey do thing, you know? So if you want your child to develop a larger vocabulary, or you want your child to develop a reading habit, then you yourself should be reading, or even reading with them, because it shows them like, hey, that's cool. My mom does that. I want to do it too. Children are always trying to copy what their parents are doing. Those are the reasons why I think that you should start a reading habit. And now we're going to jump into how. The first thing that I would recommend is that you start with a book that plays with your imagination. So I like to recommend books from TV shows or movies because you're kind of already familiar with the plot and the characters. And what's really exciting about this is that usually the book is better than the TV show, can give you kind of a more in-depth view into what was going on in your character's head or why something happened. I know I would be watching something like The Hunger Games, just for an example, or Twilight, you know, and in the movie you'll be watching these things happen, but in the book it's telling you why. And so I think there's a little bit of holes that can be filled in from reading the books from TV shows and movies that you really enjoy. If you're not interested in that, I would definitely suggest then that you pick stories that you're interested in. So maybe if you pick up a book and you're like, wow, if they made this into a movie, I would watch that, then you should probably read it. I also recommend some true crime books. I love some true crime books, but I'm going to caution you against some nonfiction books just because some of them can be kind of boring, especially self-help books. And it's not that those books are not beneficial, because I've read my fair share of self-help books. But I think a lot of people, especially people that I know, will decide that they want to start reading, and the first book that they'll go pick up is The Mastery of Love, or The 5 Love Languages, Think and Grow Rich, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And like I said, those books have a lot of benefits that you can take from them. But if you're trying to start a reading habit, as in, you know, a habit that is fun, those might not be the best books to start off with because they don't really show you the best of like entertainment that reading has to offer. The next piece of advice that I would give you is to set a specific reading goal of at least 20 minutes a day. And I recommend 20 minutes because if you're reading a book for 5 minutes, especially if you're a slower reader, you might only get a few pages in a day. And the problem with that is nothing is happening in a few pages, or maybe sometimes something is happening, but not nearly as much is happening as would happen over the course of 20 pages, you know? So if you're giving yourself 20 minutes, you're giving yourself and the book a chance to really connect with one another and get into the nitty-gritty of what's happening in the story. And then when you do that, you might find that you want to read further than that 20 minutes. Another piece of advice that I would have for you is to take advantage of your library's online catalog, especially right now. A lot of us are not able to go to the library because libraries are closed. Some bookstores are closed and you might not want to go to the bookstore anyways. So it's very beneficial for you to go and get a library card. A lot of them will have it where you can sign up online. And my library personally has hundreds of ebooks and audiobooks that I can download right to my phone. I would recommend that you try to find another device other than your phone to read with, just because it's easy to get distracted with social media. Maybe someone texts you or call you and then your brain is somewhere else. So if you have a Kindle or an iPad, those are perfect. And if you don't have one of those, I would still say, I mean, reading on your phone is better than not reading at all. So you can definitely turn your phone on Do Not Disturb so that you're not receiving any notifications during that time. The next thing I'm going to recommend to you is to join reading communities online. So things like Goodreads is a great one. It's kind of like Facebook for reading, except that it also recommends you books based on the books that you've read. And if you have different like book lists, like I have a list of books that I don't finish because I just wasn't enjoying them. So it recommends me books based on that list, which is funny because I feel like I'm less likely to read those because this is a list of books that I did not enjoy. But that's good because maybe there's a book on that list that I saw online and was kind of interested in it, and now I see it recommended alongside books that I didn't finish, and I'm like, no, not really. And then I also have a list of books for favorites, so you know, that'll recommend me books based on my favorite books, and then also just books based on every book that I've ever read. And there's also book clubs on there, groups, a lot of authors do like author discussions. It's just a great book community, honestly. I think one of the best ones out there. Other ones that I would recommend would be BuzzFeed Books. They have a newsletter that you can sign up for, and they have lots of cute little quizzes and stuff like that, but also lists like books to get you through the pandemic, or if you're really missing Game of Thrones or The Witcher or whatever TV show it is you're watching right now, they will recommend you books based on those shows. So that's really awesome. There's another website called LitHub, and LitHub is basically kind of like, it's like an online literary magazine. It's more of an intellectual standpoint of reading. And then there's Reddit. Reddit has a lot of reader resources and book forums that you can join. So yes, find your online community. Trust me, there are tons of people out there that are welcoming you to the dark side of reading, okay? Oh! I can't believe I forgot Instagram. Another resource that's online and another good book community is Instagram. Instagram has the Bookstagram hashtag and a whole bunch of other book hashtags, but you can find an entire community of people on there that are loving to share and discuss what they read. And if you post what you read a lot, or you're a really big user of Instagram, then you could probably open the door to kind of get free books from people because they'll see that you have a following and they want you to review their book. That's a long story. Get the habit started first. The last thing that I'm going to recommend for you is to always carry a book around with you no matter where you go. Because if you have a book on you and you're not busy, you're more likely to read it. For example, I was on set last week for a TV show that I was filming, and because of the COVID-19 pandemic, I spent a lot of time in my car because if you weren't currently filming, they wanted you to sit in your car. So my first day that I was there, I spent 4 hours in my car. And let me tell you, when I was leaving my house that morning, I looked at a book that I was reading and I was like, should I bring that? And I don't know if I was rushing or why I didn't bring it, but I just decided to leave the book there because I'm like, I'm gonna be on set. And then I spent 4 hours in my car. So the next day, I definitely made sure to bring a book, and even though I didn't spend nearly as long in my car, at least I had that book to read to burn some time. I'm not saying that I had to spend the whole 4 hours reading, but I definitely could have knocked out my 20-minute goal right there, and then got back to surfing on Facebook or watching whatever it was that I was watching on YouTube or anything. Those are my tips for how to start a reading habit and why you should. What are your favorite books? What are you reading? Or are you trying to get a reading habit? What is stopping you from reading? I really want to know what's stopping people from not picking up books, because I'm like such an avid reader. If you have any questions or you are interested in any of the websites that I mentioned in this video, I will be linking them in the comments box below. Please feel free to ask me any questions or any book recommendations. As you can see, I have a ton. So I love talking about books and would be happy to send some of my favorites your way so that you can get started on your reading habits. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Hopefully I'll be back with another video next week. And until then, I will see y'all next time. Bye!
Not there, static in the air, giving